This is your one and only Wolfie teacher, and I'm here to help you with going over the My First Grammar Workbook 3 today. Now, let's get started. Please turn to page 25 on your workbook, and we're going to be learning about past tense, and specifically, we're going to be learning about regular verbs. Now, what is a regular verb? Now, a regular verb is a word that actually shows action. So things like jump, things like play, things like dance. These are all action words. Now, that's what we call regular verbs. Now, when we put these jump, play, and dance into the past tense, we usually need to put an ed at the end of the action word. Now, for example, if I have the word jump and I want to put this into the past tense, then what I need to do is I need to add an ed at the end, which makes jumped. Repeat after me, jumped. Now, what about play? At the end, just like the rule, what do we need to put at the end? We need to put an ed at the end, which makes played. Played. What about dance? Dance. Now, if I have the word dance and if I use the same rule and put another ed at the end, then how would we read this? It's of course not going to be danced. It's going to be danced. But what we need to do, because there's two e's, we do not want two e's. We would like to erase the e and only add the d at the end. So every single action word that ends with an e needs only d at the end. So things like, for example, if I have the word dance and it has an e at the end, it's of course going to end with just d. Live is the same thing. If I want to say the past tense of live, then at the end of the live, the word live, we only need to add a d in the end because the word ends with an e. Now, if we have a y at the end of the word, at the end of the action word, and we have a consonant. Consonants are words that are not A, E, I, O, U. So other alphabets, things like B, C, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now, if we have these alphabets, we always need to erase the Y. And instead of the Y, what we need to do is we need to put an I and an ED at the end. So for example, if I have the word study, because in front of the Y, we have a consonant, I will need to erase the Y and put an IED at the end, which makes the word studied. Studied. Easy as that. Now, when I want to put this into a negative form, we always need to use did. And we always need to use the word not in the end. Now, if we shorten this up, we will have didn't. Didn't. Now, don't forget, we cannot use I didn't played. It doesn't make sense. This didn't already shows the past tense, so we do not need to put an ed at the end. Think of didn't as the police. Now, when the police comes, and think of play as a burglar, thief. Now, the thief has, for example, the thief came in with an ed, which is the valuables, things that are very, very precious. Now, a thief can't have the precious treasure if there is a police, so we delete this. Do you understand? Always remember didn't as the police and the word play as the burglar, as the thief. Okay? And you should not have an ed at the end of the word when you're putting it into the negative form. As simple as that. Let's go over to the question so that we practice. Now, we have the word over here. If I have fry, remember at the end of the word it ends with a y and in front we have a consonant. Then what would the answer be? Of course, we delete the Y and put an IED at the end. Let's see if it's correct. Yeah, fantastic. Next one, number 3, love. It ends with an E, so what do we need only? We only need a D at the end. Very good. Visit. This is a normal regular verb. Now, if we put this into the past tense, we need a ED at the end, which means visited. Fantastic. There's an E at the end, so number 5, what would it be? Lived. We only need a D at the end. Fantastic. Like, it also has an E, so it'll be liked. Fantastic. Watch. Watch. It's just a normal, simple action word. So, what would we need to put at the end? Of course, we need to put an ED at the end. Fantastic. Yeah, watched. Play. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Now, if we have a Y and we do not have a consonant, we have a vowel over here, just like A, E, I, O, U. Then we do not put an I, ED. Nope. What we need to put is just a plain old ED at the end. So in front of the Y, if you see an A, E, I, O, U, please remember you only need to put an ED at the end, which means play would only need an ED at the end. Played. Study. What about study? At the end, we have a Y, but in front we have no vowels, so which means we need to put the Y out and put an IED, which means studied. Practice. There's an E at the end, so just a D, of course. Next one, work. Now, this is a normal, regular verb, so we need an ED at the end. Worked. Dry. In front of the Y, there is a consonant, so what would there be? Fantastic. Erase the Y and put an IED at the end. Dried. Fantastic. Well done. Let's go to the next page. On the next page, what did they do yesterday? Well, we're going to go over the answers together. Look at the pictures carefully. Number 1, she walked to school yesterday. That's great, because this is the past tense. She didn't walk to the park. Now, we're going to put it into the negative form as well. Let's start with this. He, look at him. Basketball yesterday. So is he playing basketball? Did he play basketball? Oh, so what do we need? Of course, he. That's it. Play at the end of the ED. Yeah, but remember, this is basketball, not soccer. Yeah, it's not football. So what do we need to do? We need to put a negative form, which means remember the police? He didn't. And remember, no treasure. He didn't play basketball yesterday. What did he do? Fantastic. He played soccer. Fantastic. Number 3, she. Did she do math yesterday? Look at this. This is numbers. These are numbers. So she studied. Fantastic. There's a Y at the end. So at the end, we need an IED. She studied math yesterday. She, now this is a negative form, didn't. And the original verb itself. Didn't study English. Fantastic. Let's go to number 3 at the very bottom. So answers may vary, okay? So let's go over the answers together. So I might have my own answers. You may have yours. So let's go over this. Number 1, what did you do last weekend? For me, I visited my grandma last weekend. Number 2, what did you do? I watched a movie last weekend. Number 3, I didn't study English last weekend. Number 4, I didn't play computer games last weekend. Number 5, what did he do? What did they do? I didn't wash my dad's car last weekend. Number 6, I helped my mum in the kitchen last weekend. Now, if you have the opposites, it's fine. What we need is I didn't visit my grandma last weekend. I didn't watch a movie last weekend. Remember, this needs to be at the end, an IED. I studied English last weekend. If it's play, the opposite, if it's a affirmative question, if affirmative sentence, it'll be I played computer games last weekend.
if it's an affirmative, I washed my dad's car last weekend. And if it's a negative, I didn't help my mum in the kitchen last weekend. Fantastic. If you have that, congratulations. Give yourself a pat on the back. Let's go to the next page. These are reviews of lessons 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's go over the answers together. So, number 1. If we put this in the present tense, remember, dance. If it's she, he, it, remember what do we need to put? We need to put an S, ES, or an IES. Whereas on the past tense, you need to put an ED, or a D, or an IED. Let's go over this together. Very simple. Dance, remember, dances, and danced. Very good. Now, next one, cook. What about cook? Now, because it's a he or a she or it, we need a S and the N. Cooks. And then if it's the past tense, remember, it's a normal action word, so cooked. We need an ED at the end. Watch. It's a normal action word, but if it's a he, she, and it on the present tense, we need to put a. That's correct. We need to put an ES. Okay, he watches. Now, next one, if it's the past tense, just plain old ED. Watched would be fine. Next one, live. Now, this one, because it ends with an E, if it's for present tense, we only need to put a, that's correct, S, which means lives. If it's the past tense, we only need to put a D, which means lived. Fantastic. Next one, cry. There's a Y, and there is a consonant. Remember, what do we need to do? Yep, that's correct. Erase the Y and put an IES. So cries would be the correct answer. And if it's the past tense, the same thing because there's a consonant in front. That's correct. We need to put a IED this time. Fantastic. Let's go over the answers at the bottom, shall we? So, at the bottom, if it's a be verb, what do we need to use? Remember, it says yesterday. If it's yesterday, there are 2 options for be verbs. It's either was or were. So which one would it be? It says they, so which one do we need to use? Of course, were they at school yesterday? Then what do we need to say? Because it's a yes, we need to use the same be verb over here at the very back. Yes, they were. Fantastic. She, it says yesterday, and it's the past tense. So she, what did she do? She, of course, played. Fantastic. We only need an ED. She, now put it in the negative form. She didn't. And remember, no treasure, no EDs. She didn't play the piano. Fantastic. Now, this is a be verb again. Yesterday, it's a he this time. It's not going to be were, so which one would it be? Of course, it's going to be was. Fantastic. Was he happy yesterday? Look at his face. He's sad. Just like me. So, what would it be? No, he was not. Yes, but we can put this into a shorter form, which means wasn't. Fantastic. My dad, what was he doing? My dad, now this has to be in the past tense. It's yesterday. My dad cooked dinner yesterday. Very good. It was delicious. Now, this is a question. It says tomorrow. If it's tomorrow, which word do we need to use? It's always going to be the word will. Remember. So, if it's a question, will your mum, and we need to use the original verb, will your mum drive to work tomorrow? And because we asked the question, beginning with will, we need to have the same word at the very back. So, yes, she will. Fantastic. Next one, tomorrow. This is the last question of today. Amy, what does she do? What will she do tomorrow? Amy will wash. Fantastic. That's the correct answer. So you really need to remember, guys. Remember to use an ED or a D or an IED depending on the word you see in front of you. Now, please revise this and I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye.